My Hero Academia Heroes Rising is the best My Hero movie. I'm so excited I get to talk about my favorite My Hero movie, Heroes Rising. I mean it, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you need to change that right now. After the success of the first movie, My Hero Academia 2 Heroes, production started on the next movie, Heroes Rising. This movie takes place somewhere in Season 5, mainly after the Class A and Class B students face off with one another. This movie once again takes place on an island, and instead of focusing primarily on Deku and All Might, this one is all about Class 1A. They're fighting against some powerful bad guys, and the race is on to stop them from gaining ultimate power. Now, there is something special to note about this movie. Originally, this was going to be the finale for the manga. Sort of. While penning the story, the author Horikoshi had planned for elements of this movie to be used in the finale when My Hero was originally going to be really short. If you didn't know, Horikoshi was struggling to find a hit, so when he created My Hero, he envisioned it to be only 3 arcs, but because of how it exploded in popularity, he made the story longer. And thank goodness for that, we got so many great stories out of My Hero. So much so, I could argue that you could keep it going forever and still find great story opportunities. Kinda like how One Piece just keeps going and going. Back to the point, elements of this movie's story were going to be used in the original finale of My Hero, and you can see a lot of that mostly in the final arc of the story that I will talk about later. I'm not holding it off any longer. My name is Rocko from Reamlore, and let's dive in. By the way, if you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe. We upload videos just like this one on our Reamlore channel. We upload a great new video every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 3 p.m, so make sure you're subscribed with that bell pressed to get notified when we upload. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, so if you can subscribe, it would really mean a lot. We start the movie off with a transport heist. Yep, a whole bunch of heroes are chasing after this transport truck driven by villains. Rocko and a bunch of no-names were following Spinner, Dobby, and Mr. Compress to take them out in a very well animated sequence. The villains figure out there must have been a leak, and we see they're transporting someone in the back. The villains are not out of the clear though, as Endeavor and more heroes block the road, so Endeavor and Dobby shoot fire at each other, but they cancel each other out. Endeavor gets the better of Dobby as he uses Prominence Burn, and the truck flies off of the cliff. The villains are fine, however. They were doubles made by Twice, so the real ones are somewhere else. Hawks then shows up to investigate with the heroes, but they can't find anyone in the back. We then see that person the villains were transporting meet up with 3 of his friends, saying the experiment was a success. After a brief recap of the show's premise, we catch up with the rest of our class not in the classroom, but rather working as pro-heroes on an island. Class A have a pro-hero agency on the island, answering calls, going on patrols, and helping people out. Midori explains they're here on Nabu Island working as a hero agency far away from the mainland of Japan as part of a request from the Hero Public Safety Commission. Flashing back to that conversation, the sleepy Mara from the license exam is explaining why to All Might and Principal Nezu. Superhuman society has been thrown in chaos, and they need these new heroes ready much faster. Aizawa brings this information to the class and sends them to Naboo, named after the Star Wars planet, since the heroes there got old and retired, meaning that they will be the main hero force on that island until a more permanent replacement team can be found. Everyone is super pumped about this because they're going to become the real thing, heroes working at an agency. They'll be completely on their own, no pros or teachers to help. They need to figure out things for themselves. Back in the present, they get a call for a missing kid, so Midoriya, Uraraka, and Jiro go looking for him. As we get more scenes of heroes helping the island people out, and I just love this stuff. Yeah, I'm a sucker for action, but I love scenes like this just as much. Superheroes using their powers to help civilians in everyday situations. Taking your grandma to the hospital, recharging someone's tractor battery, clearing the road, finding lost puppies, I just love it. It's the same thing with Superman getting cats out of trees, or Spider-Man helping out old ladies cross the road. It makes me like them more. Midoriya finds the lost boy Katsuma, played by Maxie Whitehead, yes, that is actually her name, and his sister who made the call, Mahuro, played by Danny Chambers. Katsuma is excited to see a hero, but Mahuro is upset that Midoriya took an hour to find him, as seen on her stopwatch. She insults him, and Midoriya apologizes for being too slow. Katsuma says thanks anyway before his sister drags him away, but Midoriya doesn't care. Katsuma is safe, and that's what's important. Mahuro set this up to show Katsuma how useless they were, but Katsuma says they found him just like they said, so Mahuro is determined to show how useless they are. All Might, meanwhile, back at UA, is a little worried about the students on their own, but Aizawa says it's fine. There's been nothing but minor crimes on that small island in the past 30 years. Plus, there's more to hero work than flashy fights. It's important to get to know the people they need to protect and gain their trust, and the students will call them if there's an emergency. Everyone at the agency is tired aside from Bakugo, who thinks all these small jobs are dumb, and has decided to watch The Office in case a villain rolls around. The heroes do get a thanks from the island people who brought them food to thank them for their help. It's a sweet moment as, again, they all feel like real heroes, and spoilers, things are going to go very bad, so it builds more tension. You don't want anything bad to happen to these super nice people because we got got to know them along with the other characters. After dinner, everyone clocks out aside from Midoriya, who wants to practice some more, and Bakugo, who was given the night watch since he didn't do anything all day. Later, Midoriya and Bakugo talk about One for All. Bakugo wants Midoriya to master the power so they could finally have a real fight to see who will be the #1 hero. This conversation is also great as it helps set up future events in the movie regarding One for All. It's cut short as Katsuma tells them there's a villain on the island. By the way, I have to give props to both Horikoshi and the art team behind My Hero. In both the show and the manga, they remember where the scarring on the characters are. Like here, you can not only see the scars on Midoriya's hand, but also his right shoulder where he messed up his skin. Same thing with Ida at the start of season 3. When they were in swimming gear, we saw the scar on Ida's shoulder where Stain stabbed him. I do appreciate the small attention to detail. Meanwhile, at the Heroes Public Safety Commission's headquarters, a meeting is being held to talk about the recent attacks on heroes across Japan. These are notable because not only were they knocked unconscious, but they lost all their quirks. They think initially that the League of Villains are behind this since they stole Overhaul's quirk-erasing drug, but Hawks, who has been infiltrating the League, says they've been unsuccessful on that front. Hawks then proposes that maybe their quirks were stolen by someone like All for One, so Hawks goes to investigate. We then catch up with our favorite League of Villains, but even they don't know what they were transporting. The good doctor put them up to the task, but didn't tell them what it was. In the middle of Kyushu, Katsuma and Maharo send their dad working there a message saying they'll see him soon. Unfortunately, he's going to be delayed as the group of villains we saw before attack and their leader takes the dad's quirk. He shows off his devastating power to control the weather and starts lighting the city up, burning it all away, but then he collapses. He says the quirk doesn't work on type B blood, meaning it's useless. They're all upset, but they see the message the dad's kids sent him and realize one of them might have inherited a better version of the quirk. On Nabu Island, Midoriya and Bakugo race to the castle ruins with Katsuma and see a giant mantis monster. Bakugo uses a stun grenade on the monster but realizes something is wrong. He figures out this is just an illusion and finds Maharo casting it. He figured it out instantly because unlike the rocks, it didn't have a shadow. Bakugo goes full Bakugo and says he would never fall for something like that. He's going to be the greatest hero of all time, surpassing All Might, and really loses control. Midoriya holds him back as the kids run off. Later in the fields, we find out why Maharo is doing this. Katsuma wants to be a hero, but Maharo wants Katsuma to be like their dad, who she looks up to as a real hero. Back in Kyushu, Hawks is investigating the scene and finds it weird this new guy unconscious not only isn't a hero, but also has no identification. It was taken by the villain, so no one knows what quirk they're after. And Shigaraki is also investigating. The next day at the Hero Agency, everyone is doing their hero thing and Midoriya runs into Katsuma again. Katsuma apologizes for what happened yesterday to Midoriya, and Bakugo is also listening. Katsuma tells him why his sister did that, and Midoriya sympathizes because his mom was concerned about him being a hero as well. Katsuma says he would want to be a hero, but doesn't think he can with his quirk. He says if he could, he would beat up all the bad guys, and Midoriya says he just wants to help people, whether it's fighting bad guys or something else, so both of them want the same thing, while not worrying their families. A nice lady on the island explains what's up with those kids. They lost their mother, and their dad works in Kyushu, so they're on their own a lot. The neighborhood looks after them, but it's no substitute for having a parent around. Katsuma meets up with his sister to tell him he wants to be cool like their dad, but also a hero, but a ferry crashes into the mainland. The big boss sends his minions out to cause a distraction while he goes after the quirk. The first thing they do is destroy all the boats, and Katsuma calls the heroes, but the phone lines get cut by the villains. Mineta, Aoyama, and Hagakure meet one of the villains, Mummy, played by Brendan Blabber, who has the power to wrap anything up in his bandages and turn them into his one-eyed soldiers. Aoyama and Mineta fight, but Hagakure can't get through to anyone for reinforcements. Ojiro, Shoji, and Sue are fighting a villain on the beach as well. This is Chimera, played by Greg Dulce, who has a super strong beast quirk that gives him super strength, super speed, air cannons, flame breath, and a second mode which we'll see later. While Shoji and Sue get people away, Ojiro fights him with the help of Tokoyami and Dark Shadow. Ojiro, being awesome, says he'll fight this guy alone while Tokoyami gets reinforcements. At the office, everyone's cell phones are out and Uraraka has a pink flip phone. I love that. When Tokoyami and another guy show up to tell them villains are on the prowl. Ida, taking charge, says they'll split up into teams. Bakugo, Kirishima, and Kaminari will go to the shopping center to help Aoyama's group. Yayuro, Zujiro, and Ashido will go with them to help with first aid. Todoroki, Sato, Tokoyami, and Sero will go with Ida to help Ojiro on the beach, while Uraraka and Koda help Sue and Shoji evacuate. Midoriya finds the harbor in ruins and decides to find the kids to make sure they're safe, and he races off to find them in their neighborhood. Aoyama and Mineta are at their limit, so it seems like they're finished until Bakugo and his squad show up to help. It's an awesome fight, but Bakugo gets wrapped up in the bandages, leaving Kirishima and Kaminari alone. Shoji and Ojiro get beaten down, but Ida and his team show up to help. They wrap him up and attack, but Chimera is super strong and blasts Sato away by knocking him out. The kids go to their home, but it gets destroyed by our big bad guy using his quirk finding ability. He says he will steal Katsuma's cell activation quirk, but leave him alive. Deku runs in to save them and gets the kids away from the big bad. The big boss tells Deku to get out of his way when he shows up he has multiple quirks, laser shields, and finger beams, which reminds Deku of All for One. This is a good time to introduce introduce him. This is the big bad of this movie, as you figured out, called 9, given that name because he can hold 9 quirks in his body. Unfortunately, I have to inform you that this villain is underdeveloped again, same as Wolframe. I will give 9 more credit though. He is super powerful and very effective with his multiple destructive quirks. Plus, he has a great design and a cool concept with the 9 quirks. Unlike Wolframe from the last movie, he does have a motivation, a pretty average one. He thinks the world should be ruled by the strong and the weak should die. A decent motivation, but it's still too hollow. He needed more backstory to really be memorable like the villains of the show. Even with the shaky motivation, I still find him compelling, because he is really scary in this movie. He's not only incredibly strong, but he uses all of his quirks to their greatest potential, making him even more terrifying. Another thing I really like about him though is the fact that he's played by Johnny Young Bosch, who was Adam the Black Mighty Morphing Power Ranger. Yes. So even though he's not the best, I still really like him. Back with Kirishima and Kaminari, they are struggling against Mummy because he has Bakugo, but Bakugo explodes one of his gauntlets to break out of the Mummy prison. Using his awesome fighting techniques, Bakugo gives Mummy a maximum blast from his remaining gauntlet and beats him. Yayorozu's team rescued everyone else, so Bakugo goes after the other villains. Ida's team are not faring well as Chimera is keeping them back with his raw power alone. Aside from 9, Chimera is probably the strongest person on the island. He can keep Tokoyami, Ida, and Todoroki, 3 of Class A's strongest members, back all on his own. Deku keeps fighting 9 as he finds out 9 has a wind quirk, so that's 5 quirks we've seen him use thus far. Midoriya bumps One For All from 8% to 20%, which 9 takes note of and is able to shield against the power. 9 is very interested in One For All, so he tries to take Deku's quirk. As All Might has mentioned it before, One For All can only be passed down if a person willingly gives it up, but All For One's quirk could easily take it away. 9 can't, however. As he explains, he doesn't have enough space for One For All. Remember, he can only hold 9 quirks, and dwelling within One For All are the vestiges of the past users along with their quirks, and they're a package deal. 9 decides to eliminate Deku and pushes him back before blasting him to the side. Katsuma and Maharu are still nearby and are fearing for their lives as Maharu creates a big version of Deku begging for help. That cues Bakugo into where they are. He blasts 9 but is unable to get past his shield. Deku explains what's going on as Bakugo charges at 9 and maneuvers around to get a solid hit in, but 9 demonstrates another quirk. He can summon these blue eyes white dragons and smashes Bakugo into the ground. Bakugo and Deku work together to hit 9, but he uses his weather quirk to blast the two with lightning, which also takes out the island's power. 9 goes to take Katsuma's quirk, but Deku and Bakugo grab his feet to stop him, so 9 blasts them back. 9 collapses to the ground in pain, however, which is when his third minion, Slice, played by Linda Mackey, shows up. She has the power to turn her hair into deadly razor blades. She's about to take the kids, but Koda and Shoji rush in to grab them while Uraraka and Sue save Deku and Bakugo. Slice tells 9 to take it easy, they can get the child tomorrow when his strength returns, and sends a signal flare telling Chimera and Mummy to return. Later that night, the whole island is in ruins, so everyone has gathered on the edge of the island at a warehouse. Kaminari and Yayorozu push themselves to create electricity and supplies to help everyone out. The rest of the heroes are cooking and helping the people while also keeping Mummy locked up in the basement. Midoriya and Bakugo are getting treatment from the doctors, but they're too injured and need a real hospital. Katsuma rolls in with his sister and offers to help with his quirk cell activation. Katsuma says he will save them as he uses his quirk. The villains meanwhile have reconvened as Chimera flashes back to when he first met 9, who promised him a world where people won't look at him as a monster but rather a god inspired by his power. Chimera actually has some subtle character building when you take in the themes of the show. Heteromorphs like him and Shoji are hated in the countryside of Japan because of traditional values, calling them monsters and being prejudiced towards them. Chimera at some point was probably branded a monster and a villain by those same bigots, which 9 took advantage of. It's a cool backstory for a minor villain in this movie I really appreciate. Slice and Mummy also joined 9 because I don't know, they were bored? Continuing the flashback, 9 tells his minions that he's donating his body to the League of Villains for experimentation, and we see why. He's coughing up blood and says he doesn't have much time left, so he needs more power. After that, the doctor gave him a copy of All For One's quirk, which he was compatible with, and says along with his own, he can steal 7 more quirks, totaling at 9. After that, we got the conversation at the transport wreck from before where 9 says his symptoms have gotten worse. His new quirks are speeding up the cellular destruction of his body. If he wants to live and become the ruler of the world, he needs to find a quirk that can repair cells, which is why he's doing all of this. With determination, Katsuma heals Midoriya and Bakugo back to full strength as Ida gathered the rest of the class to discuss what to do next. With communications and power down, they can't call the mainland for help, and the drone Yayorozu sent detailing what's happening won't get them help anytime soon. This is not a good scenario. 9 and Chimera are super powerful, plus their numbers are dropping, with Yaoyorozu and Kaminari being useless because they use their quirks too much. Katsuma and Mahuro step in and tell the heroes the villains are after his quirk and offers to turn himself over in exchange for the villains leaving to keep people safe. Midoriya says they can't do that, however, because Katsuma has an amazing ability that not only healed him up but made him stronger. Bakugo chimes in, saying they need to beat the villains, win and save people in All Might's words. Hearing their stance, everyone remembers all the friends they made on the island and get newfound determination to stop the villains. They get to planning mode, which the series does best, and decide to use the castle ruins as a base since there's only one way to the ruins. The civilians will be guarded on the other side of the castle while they protect the kids personally. Midoriya notes that 9 collapsed, realizing using those quirks wears him out, which is why he wants Katsuma's quirk. So what they need to do is force 9 to use his quirks as much as possible to wear him out. At sunrise, the villains arrive to start the astonishing 30 minutes of pure awesomeness. Starting off, Aoyama hits the villains with a maximum charge naval laser while Yaoyorozu uses the rest of her powers to create 2 cannons which separate 9 from his minions. They split up the villains, but these 2 are too exhausted to continue. Uraraka and Sero work together to throw rocks at 9, forcing him to use his quirks in a brilliantly animated scene. Slice, meanwhile, is trapped in a cave where Tokoyami is going to fight her head-on, with Ashido running support. Chimera, meanwhile, is being confronted by Todoroki, who freezes him underwater while he's joined by Ida, Kirishima, and Sue. Chimera breaks out quickly, and all of them get ready to fight with everything they've got. Uraraka dumps a mountain of rocks on 9 just like the sports festival, and just like the sports festival, it doesn't work. And 9 blasts them all back. Sero backs them up where Mineta has set up this massive rock slide. Uraraka, pushing her powers to the max, gets rid of the wood blocking it as an enormous rock slide falls on 9. While that happens, Sero propels Mineta up into the air, who seals up all the rocks with his quirk. 9 unleashes the full power of his attack, which blasts them all back, knocking out Mineta. Aoyama and Yaoyorozu try to help, but they get blasted for their troubles. 9 shows off he has electrical powers as Bakugo and Deku run in to assist. Awesome scene next as Deku kicks 9, 9 kicks him back, but Bakugo launches Deku back at him again. Yeah, that was totally improvised on their part. They definitely didn't practice those sweet combo moves in secret. Tokoyami merges with Dark Shadow as he fights Slice head-on and nails her as Ashido melts Slice's hair with acid. Slice with short hair hits Ashido, but this makes Tokoyami enraged, which unleashes the full power of Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow takes her down, but she blasted the ceiling, which collapses in on all of them, taking Tokoyami and Ashido out of the fight. Deku and Bakugo hit 9 as much as possible, so he uses his quirks, while Todoroki's squad does everything they can to try and take down Chimera, but nothing's working, or so they thought. They had secretly put Sue's toxic mucus on their arms and legs, so when they attacked Chimera, it ate at his skin. Chimera isn't done yet though, as he shows off his full monster form, getting bigger with animal parts all over. He shows off his real powers, he blasts at them with his laser and wrecks the place. Okay, how does this guy only have 1 quirk? He totally has multiple. Actually, now that I think about it, I think 9 might have given him some quirks. Ojiro wants to help, but Shoji and Jiro remind him it's their job to protect the kids. Sero takes 9's attention away from his friends, but 9 blasts him away, taking him out of the fight. Uraraka jumps out of the smoke to try and make him float, but 9 uses his blue eyes white dragons to knock her back. Deku catches her, but she gets knocked out, which enrages him and Bakugo as they get smashed by the dragons. Things are not looking good for them since 9 isn't stopping, and soon he'll get to the kids, but 9 starts to collapse from overusing his quirk. Todoroki's squad, meanwhile, can't even get close to Chimera, but Todoroki has an idea of how to beat him. Ida diverts his attention with Recipro Turbo in another great scene reminiscent of the Kamina fight as Kirishima goes unbreakable to protect Todoroki. They get closer in a truly awesome scene, where Kirishima is just tanking the laser blasts. Kirishima gets knocked out, which gives Todoroki the chance to get to Chimera's mouth as Ida and Sue cover for him. Todoroki figures that if he pushes his fire to its absolute temperature, it can create an inferno. So the opposite is true for ice. He starts freezing Chimera to dangerously low temperatures to stop him. With Chimera's last burst of strength, he takes down Sue and Ida, but Todoroki freezes him solid, reaching his limit as well from the cold and passes out. Speaking of limits, it seems like 9 is done, but these liquid canisters on his back flow into his body, and he takes off his mask to unleash a full lightning blast, which seemingly kills Deku and Bakugo. Meanwhile, back on the mainland, Katsuma and Mahuro's father woke up and tells Hawks about his quirk. While he can repair and regenerate cells like his son, he's limited to type A blood, so it's not that useful. Hawks gets a phone call telling him about Naboo Island, and he puts 2 and 2 together, and orders everyone to get to Naboo Island right now. Back on the island, Ojiro and Jiro tell Shoji to take the kids while they hold the villain back. While 9 is moving, it's clear he's in pain, so the dynamic duo hit him with everything they've got, but it's not enough. Shoji shields the kids as 9 attacks with Jiro and Ojiro as support, but he's too much for them and blasts all of them back, taking them out. 9 grabs Mahuro and tells Katsuma to get over here or he'll kill her. Katsuma, with tears in his eyes, runs into action to save his sister just like Deku did in the second episode of My Hero. Nice callback there, but before 9 could steal his quirk, Deku and Bakugo Bakugo run in to save them both. Deku tells Katsuma he's proud of him for being brave, and Bakugo tells Mahiro he won't let her or anyone die because he's going to be their #1 hero. The kids run off as our heroes charge back into battle. 9 asks how they could have survived, and they explain they prepared for the lightning since they got hit with it last time. They used Kaminari as a lightning rod to deflect the attack so they could survive. It knocked out Kaminari, but now we're back to the awesome fight scene animation as Deku and Bakugo work together to blast away the Blue Eyes White Dragons and get close to 9, hitting him with everything they've got. 9 refuses to give up and uses a new purple quirk to control fire tornadoes, which is really bad. The kids are still here, and the other civilians being guarded by Sato, Hagakure, and Koda are still here held up in the cave. Deku and Bakugo realize he's going to destroy the whole island, so they can't hold back anymore. They've got to hit him with 100% of their power. They do so, a 100% smash and a howitzer impact, but it doesn't work as they get caught up in the tornado. The whole place starts to collapse with Shoji protecting the kids, and that guy is just the best. And Sato holds back mountains of rock by himself to protect everyone. 9 takes down Deku and Bakugo and says they're not worthy of the new world ruled by power he will make. The strong ruling over the weak. Heroes and villains won't be necessary. Power is the only thing that matters in this new world. Deku and Bakugo tell him that's a stupid vision as 9 uses his Blue Eyes White Dragons to smash them into the rocks. We get flashes of everyone down as the kids tell Deku and Bakugo not to give up yet. Deku says there is only one way to stop him. Without speaking, he tells Bakugo what needs to be done, and that's give Bakugo one for all. Great animation here as well. You can clearly see Bakugo's emotions on his face. He doesn't want to take Deku's quirk, but he understands it has to be done if they want to win. They reach out their bleeding hands towards each other and Deku transfers the power, allowing them to break away from the dragons. This is an amazing sequence next, backed by Might You, the song that rivals You Say Run in my opinion. Bakugo asks Deku if he'll still be able to use his quirk after this, and he says he doesn't know. He says All Might was able to protect everyone with its embers, so they use double one for all to power up. 9 goes nuts and creates a massive tornado of death, absorbing most of the island to kill them. Bakugo says Deku is going to be quirkless and lose his dream, but Deku says All Might would understand, because they both want to be just like him. With determination to win, Deku and Bakugo use their combined powers to hit a double Detroit smash that blasts away the evil storm above their heads. With sunlight raining down, the two charge at 9 to finish this fight. The next 3 minutes are just some of the most epic fight scene animations in all of My Hero. I can't accurately describe how amazing this is. You need to see it for yourselves. The sum of it is through not giving up, Deku and Bakugo smash through all of 9's defenses and attacks before Deku delivers what he calls his final smash. A kick to the face of 9 before Bakugo finishes him off by blasting him with a one-for-all charged explosion. Just like All Might before him, the embers of one for all fade and Deku says goodbye to the power. I did not do these 30 minutes of pure awesome superhero fighting justice. This is the immense strength of the movies compared to the show. You have a much bigger budget, plus you're not confined to the drawing limitations of the manga, so you can use that to create truly epic and amazing moments, and this is one of them. This was a great narrative. Everyone in Class 1A working together, sacrificing their bodies and fighting hard to beat the impossible odds and save the day. If for some crazy reason you don't want to watch this movie after seeing this video, please at least watch the 30 minutes of pure epicness that is the climax. We then get an epilogue where later in the day Hawks uncovers Tokoyami and Ashido from the rocks, explaining he got their message and brought All Might early with parachutes. He's with Midoriya and Bakugo, who are both alive but really hurt. Midoriya apologizes to All Might and tells him he gave Bakugo one for all to save everyone. Midoriya doesn't regret what he did since they stopped the villain, but is sad that he let All Might down, because All Might told Midoriya in his lowest moments that he could be a hero. All Might says he forgives Deku, that his desire to save others is the reason he was chosen as All Might's successor. As Midoriya passes out, All Might says he doesn't regret giving one for all to Deku because he used it the way it's supposed to be used, to save people. In a shocking twist though, one for all still resides in Midoriya. All Might initially thinks that Bakugo lost consciousness before the transfer finished, but quickly realized that one for all and the vestiges went back into Midoriya on their own. Aizawa leads Endeavor, other heroes, and the military to the island and helps everyone who is injured and gets the people to safety, as well as load up the 3 bad guys. 9 is nowhere to be seen, however, as he's crawling away through the flower fields. He's not alone though, as Shigaraki warps in and says he'll take over 9's dream. Shigaraki says there can only be one true ruler and disintegrates 9. We should talk about the story beats here, because if you look closely you can figure out vaguely what the original ending of My Hero Academia was going to be. 9 is basically a stand-in for All for One, that much is obvious, so the ending could have been Deku and Bakugo sharing one for all to take him down. One for all wouldn't fully transfer and return to Midoriya, so it could leave the door open for a sequel. After that, All for One could cower away to plan his next move when Shigaraki shows up and kills him, all while saying he's taking over or this is for using me, once again leaving the door open for a sequel. Now there was probably a bit more to that in the original version version Horikoshi penned, but we may never know. All I know is that adapting these story beats into this movie was genius. They weren't scrapped because they were bad, it's just the story was going in a different direction. It happens. So finding them a new use in this movie was a great call. At the hospital, Recovery Girl is healing up Bakugo, who doesn't remember using One for All. Why? Well, I know why, he was knocked unconscious, but from a story perspective, why? He already knew about One for All, so what does it matter if he can remember using it or not? This might have been another leftover story beat from the original ending where Bakugo doesn't find out about One for All, and this was to restore the status quo, but in this movie it doesn't really make sense. Katsuma and Mahoro reunite with their dad, which is a nice moment, before the students help out the people of Naboo with rebuilding their destroyed town. The Heroes Public Safety Commission canceled their assignment here, but they stayed the scheduled time anyway because the people needed them. After their time on the island is finished, they head out on the ferry without saying goodbye, as to not interfere with the relief efforts, but Katsuma and Mahoro run alongside the boat to thank them and say goodbye. Katsuma says he'll get stronger to protect his family, then become a cool hero like Deku and Bakugo, who always wins. Bakugo tells him to work hard, and Midoriya says the same thing All Might said to him in the second episode. You can become a hero, which bookends the movie. The awesome movie is over, but how does it rank? Characterization, I'm giving a 6. The weak parts are the villains, but everyone else, especially Deku and Bakugo, are so strong. The story is getting a 5. Normally fight scenes over and over again would be boring, but this is just escalation at its finest. Every fight here tells an interesting story and gives the characters a cool moment to shine. And the narrative is really students fighting against impossible odds. Entertainment, I'm giving an 8. These are some of the best fight scenes I've ever seen, and I've been watching action, cartoons, and anime for a long time. This movie is such a delight to watch. Seriously, you are missing out if you haven't seen it. Importance, I'm giving a 6. This is a must-watch for My Hero fans. The best My Hero movie is definitely worth a watch. After all is said and done, this movie really is My Hero Academia at its very best. The heart of what makes My Hero so compelling is very much present in this film. The kind-hearted characters, the wholesome moments, the great action, and amazing visuals. If you wanted to introduce someone to My Hero and get them hooked, this is the movie for you. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.